Yeah, I'm curious what you would have done if it had been you that this happened to, right? Like, what would you have done if you worked really hard on a project and the project was focused on creating justice in the world, and you had intentionally set the highest priorities in the project as the attempts to redeem some of the worst human beings. And then the first time you mail it out in that format with, you know, your your descriptions of it, and then at that exact like timing, even if it was the same day you mail it out, if that person on the top of your list of shitty humans was almost murdered but barely didn't get murdered, like what would you have done? Because I don't know, it's a really weird thing to have something like that happen to you, right? And it's there's no like set like procedure that a person's supposed to do or something that I know of, right? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Are there rabbis you should talk to and say like, hey, this just happened to me? Like, what would you have done? So for me, what I had to do was pretend it didn't happen and not tell anyone about it for at least a year, basically, because no one would believe me and they would probably try to hospitalize me if I pushed it. And then even now, I think the only people so far who actually have a chance of understanding that it was a significant thing that this happened, it's the people who've already listened to a lot of the project, so they kind of know what this is, right? So yeah, what would you have done if it had been you that this happened to? Who would you have talked to about it? Would you have talked to anyone? I'm curious, right? And there's not even that many people on Earth I can ask that question to currently, you know? Yeah. Another question is, afterwards, looking back, if you were to brainstorm, make a list, let's say that the project you're creating, let's say that there actually might be, a God, or at least a sort of tendency of the universe to default to certain types of things happening because the universe has a sort of direction it's supposed to be pointing. So looking back on it afterwards, let's say there's a God, and let's say the God wants to somehow do something to do this, to like show, hey, I agree, like whatever you just are trying to publish right now, like I agree with you, says God. What could you possibly do to do that, right? What are the options? You could have like the weather change on top of the person or something, I guess, right? Like you could have the moment you mail it, you walk outside the post office, then like lightning strikes, you know what I mean? Or it was raining and then it suddenly becomes sunny right on top of you. Maybe, like, what are the possible ways? And still keeping the restrictions of Judaism there for this question of almost everything being according to nature and God operating through nature and through coincidence, through happenstance, through the way things turn out. So, like, what are the options? And like you could make it something like, hey, you win the lottery or something, right? Like you go to publish the thing, and then for some reason you like win $1 million, like that, maybe that. But honestly, like, what could possibly be the most powerful thing you could do if you wanted to? And at least at the top of the list, or one of the top choices of what you could do, would be, oh, the individual you put at the top of your list for redemption priority, let's almost kill him at the same time, but not kill him. Like, let's make it really obvious that it could have killed him. If there was a fraction of a second difference in timing, it would have, but it didn't. And it happens to be, even just the same day, but at the same time as you're trying to publish this thing you made. You see what I mean? Like, out of all in the toolbox, what are the things that God could have done to say, at least, like, yeah, I support you, like, I agree with what you're trying to do here, to a person. And yeah, like, what else would it be except for something like this, or maybe some you see what I mean, though? Like, what could you choose to do to try to signify this to the humans, and what possibilities even exist that would be more impressive to humans than what actually happened on that day?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, I've emailed Beit Din of America about the Unconcealed Hashgacha Pratis, and also Chabad asked the rabbi, if you have any people that you can think of, some learned folks who would be able to ponder some things and evaluate, that would be helpful. Yeah, like, it should be the most fascinating thing in the world for a rabbi to hear this, right? Like, it should be like, wow, maybe like an obvious type, like, isn't that what you want? You want to hear about this stuff? And yeah, everyone who thinks that something like this happens in their life, a lot of them can be wrong. You have to evaluate the probability of things. But yeah, like, this should be fascinating. And as I mentioned previously, with the probability of things happening on the same day, you have temple, and if the temple is destroyed on the same day as the temple also being destroyed, on the same day as an expulsion, as the same day as, if there's 5 or 6 horrible things happening to the Jews on the same day, and that's miraculous, that, first off, how many other horrible things have happened to the Jews not on that day, right? So you have to divide by that number too, right? So if, let's say, there's 10 horrible things happen to the Jews and 6 of them happen on that day, 4 of them happen elsewhere in the year. If the other 4 are also on the same day but a different day, maybe you can make the argument that that also is miraculous. But if the other 4 are just scattered around, you still need to think like the 6 that are on the same day, a bunch of those could have been randomly on that day. If they had not been on that day, like those other 4, I wouldn't have counted them. But they did happen to land here, so I do count them toward my, probability of miraculous things. So you have 1 over 365 for each of those things also, of just random happenstance. And then you have the very real possibility that some wicked people could absolutely do things on the same day as something else that happened to the Jews, horrible, just to mess with the Jews, right? Like, truly, if you were trying to really hurt us, whatever, like hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, and you knew that the Jews paid attention to calendar dates and, yeah. So actually, every single thing except for the first temple being destroyed on that day technically might not be miraculous at all. It might be wicked human beings with knowledge of Jewish calendars doing it on the same day on purpose. So you have 1 over 365 chance of it happening just by chance. You also have multiple horrible things happening to the Jews not on that day. And you also have the possibility that any of those things, or even all of them, could have been intentionally done on that same day, not just happenstance miraculous. So then, yeah, like, something happening on the same day as something else, same year, same time, is infinitely more miraculous when things line up. So yeah, it's tough because, as I said before, you say, well, I published my podcast, and while I was trying to publish it, that's when Donald Trump, the decree was averted and the bullet missed his skull by a tiny. But if you don't understand, like, why this podcast has anything to do with Donald Trump and his life being saved, like that doesn't mean anything to you, you know. Or if you don't know that this podcast is more than a podcast, that it's like my whole life pushing into this project, and that years of effort went into it, and then I tried to publish it, and then his life was not taken. Like, it's a real difficulty to get that part through to people, because otherwise it'd be like, oh, I did this on the same, like, you know, the thing that I did at the same time as that has to be something that is rare, significant, important. If I was publishing 10 different versions of the virus, and each month I put out a new version, and each month I mailed it out, you see how that's less miraculous if it happens to be on one of those 10 days that I'm, you know. But no, this was like a big update to the virus. The two written portions, the 19-page thing and the 2-page intro, like this was where that started, was with this publication, 2024 7/13. So if you have any people who would potentially be able to talk about something like this, maybe with you and me or whatever, it'd be great, because really tough to convey that information to someone, that because otherwise it sounds like, you know, what sort of thing could a person do? Like, let's say, you know, I donated to Donald Trump's campaign and bought a yard sign, and I submitted the order for the yard sign and the donation at the same time. But like, that is bullshit, meaningless. That's nothing, right? Like, anyone can buy a yard sign or donate to Trump's campaign. You could have done that at any moment. You could do it again. But no, like, publishing something that is a major part of your life that you've worked towards, that is a one-time thing that you publish it for the first time. It's a one-time, you know.